So I'm driving up 15th North today, and I'm watching snowflakes bounce off my windshield. I'm thinking, it's May, right? It's May out here. I'm from the East Coast. We know what the weather should be like in May. But I was relieved to find out that your governor announced this morning that May is mud cycling month awareness. So, because the weather's warming up and everybody's going to be out in the mud, so apparently everybody has to be aware of that. Anyhow, what's interesting is where we're at right now. Is what we're seeing something old, something new? Is the stuff you're working on new? Is it old? Or is it both? And if it's both, what aspects of it are new and what's not? So here's the interesting thing. This phrase reminded me of an answer to a question I recently heard. About 6 months ago, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were invited to speak to a town hall of business students at Columbia University. And some naive little business graduate student in the business school got up, went to the mic, and asked Warren Buffett one simple question. Why did you buy a railroad? And his answer was so simplistic, so brilliant, that everybody in that room sat back in their chair and said, why didn't I think of that? The reality of it is that's a typical response to a Warren Buffett answer, isn't it? But let me share with you what he said. He said, Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad last year moved on average a ton of goods, 470 miles on a single gallon of diesel, and society has an enormous interest in using less oil to transport goods. Green, optimizing costs. And he followed up that answer with business of moving things like food, sources of energy, autos, agricultural products, other stuff consumed by consumers and businesses will grow in the next 10, 20, 30 years. More stuff. Growth. Hold those two thoughts in mind as I walk through the next couple of slides. So what are we going to go over today? A couple simple things. One, what are we experiencing? I think Mr. Gilmore said yesterday, I don't know what the hell we're experiencing. I can't tell what's going on. But Paul Udell said something yesterday that was very interesting, and it reminded me of an answer I just recently heard from Andrew Moore. Paul said to us, I think he used the word summation. He said that's a biological term. Talks about the connection points all kind of coming into one. And Andrew Moore said, he described what's going on as, or this is his quote, we all should feel privileged to be alive during this period and watch the world give itself a new nervous system. Pretty interesting way of describing what all of you are doing and what we're seeing in the world of social media and cloud computing. And we're going to talk a little, what I'd like to share with you is what maybe we should be thinking about, not just you as developers, but also what you're trying to communicate to your customers, perhaps to some of your internal business users. And then finally, I'd like to leave you just 3 basic points, of which to this crowd is probably, yeah, we know all about that, but let me share them with you because I think it's really not so much about what you all know, it's how you all communicate it. So why is Amazon, Cisco, Yahoo, Google spending billions of dollars building out cloud computing platforms? Are they chasing a demand? Or are they creating the demand for the service? Do they really believe in 3 short years this is going to be a $160 billion business? Or do they know things we don't? Or are they acknowledging things? Most of us aren't. They know they create digital information, digital freight, and they enable others to do it at an alarming rate that we've never seen before. They know that cloud computing, they know that the digital media being created by, the digital content being created by social media is the new social capital that can be employed in generating wealth if you can figure out what's valuable and what's not. They know that cloud computing isn't about technology. It's about a sharing, collaborative revolution. And they also know that perhaps all of you may realize this, but most of your customers don't realize that in a few short years, they are not going to be able to, they're not going to find it they're going to find it too cost prohibitive to be managing this digital migration of business to the cloud. Every one of you probably, let's say, has 10 customers in the room. Let's say you have 500 customers in the room, as well as yourselves. And you all have your own railroad. All different gauges, none of them connecting, none of them quite as efficient as what they're building. And you may say, come on, Joe, power, how much is this? The price of computing is going down. Let's face it. Let me share with you some interesting facts about what's happening online. Energy use in the internet doubled between 2000 and 2006. By 2005, data centers across the world accounted for 1% of global electricity demand. In 2006, U.S. data centers alone ate up 661 billion kilowatt hours of electricity, costing $4.5 billion. This year alone, it is estimated it will take 10 power plants to meet data center consumption powering online demands. That's a tremendous cost. And these companies are buying up 20% of the world's most efficient servers every year. And every 4.5 years, servers turn over. The cost goes down, the consumption power goes up. They're making these investments. These are not the servers you have under your desk. There's no USB ports and little plugins and everything that waste energy. They are basically pizza boxes that are powered to consume and process at costs most of us can't afford. They're becoming the digital railroad for the future. So, the technology, that's not new. We've been seeing this. This is just an evolutionary process. We started out with custom apps. Then we went to say, we'll try to standardize them. Now we went into virtualization. And then we went into grid computing. There's my Axiom colleagues. They were the forerunners in grid computing. And now we're seeing cloud. Technology's old. There's nothing new here. But what is new is there's more people, there's more generating capabilities, and there's more collaboration going on than ever before. Nothing new to most of the folks in this crowd. I know quite often when I talk to people who, this crowd is kind of gets all the fact that Facebook and Twitters and all these things are going to impact their business. Well, many of the people I speak to don't. But the rate at which these technologies are creating information is nothing we've ever seen before. Let me give you just a few interesting facts on that. YouTube uploads 20 hours of video per minute, and that's probably grown. Facebook, to all of our chagrin, has 400 million users. And that's an interesting fact, but what's really more impressive is that a year ago in January, Facebook had 150 million users. They put on 450,000 users a day in the last year. The average Facebook user with 120 friends leaves 7 wall postings and chats with 4 friends. The average Facebook user with 500 friends, quite frankly, I'm trying to get rid of some friends. I don't know how the hell anybody would have 500. But apparently there are some. They do 17 wall postings, and they talk with 10 friends. Twitters. 75% of the tweets come from 5% of the Twitter users. That's roughly 6 million people. If you believe Twitter's numbers, which is there's roughly 100 million Twitter accounts. 75% of the Twitter traffic doesn't even come or is generated by Twitters.com. It's generated by all the APIs and the stuff you guys are building. You don't have to go to the site. The volume of information we're creating is astronomical. Now you then add in this other little fact of unlimited bandwidth and mobility. In their own right, these devices are generating content. I love that all you iPad people running around trying to convince me to buy an iPad. You're all generating more content to carry around with you. And your mobile devices, these devices in their own right are creating data, right? Geospatial data. And there's going to be more of it created as all of you in the room convince product and application people how to change value propositions. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. And if you aren't enamored enough with the iPad,